He woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of his own voice in his bed. She'd had a nightmare, and it wasn't the first one. Lisa had been having nightmares a lot lately. The house where she stayed with her parents when she was little. The same rooms and the same darkness that always chased her. It looked like a dark body chasing her in her dreams, but she was afraid to even look at it, because it always ran away from her and because of the strange noises it made. After another night of nightmares, she woke up early in the morning for school. She started to put on her school clothes, and the hairpin her father had given her as a child, which she always wore in her hair. But even though she had just woken up, she still had a lot of insomnia. She shook her head to wake up. Her shaking hair blocked her eyes for a moment, and when she opened her eyes, she saw the darkness in front of her again. With a momentary scream that frightened her in her room, she immediately set off for school. Even on the way to school, she was getting sleepy, and when she came to class, hours had passed quickly, but her eyes were constantly closing, and the darkness she was afraid of was constantly appearing in front of her like a hallucination, right next to her as she walked down the road. Around every corner she couldn't see, behind her when she wasn't looking. Lisa, who was about to go insane, went home and started researching the matter. She stayed up all night on the computer researching, and finally found something about a curse. But this curse needed a brother or sister, but Lisa didn't have any siblings, at least that's how she knew. It was the weekend, and she bought a bus ticket and joined her family. And the further she traveled and the closer she got to home, the more fear and tension she felt. The journey was finally over, and he arrived home, and seeing his parents was a relief. They all had dinner together as in the old days, but for some reason there was a problem. His father seemed to be in a constant state of anxiety and pessimism. At the same time, his mother was very calm, and at the same time, she seemed to have not aged at all, even though many years had passed. As night fell, Lisa checked on her parents at midnight. They were both sleeping quietly in their room. She went down to their old basement, she remembered. The basement light was broken, and everything was dark. Lisa slowly turned on the light on her phone and started to walk around. She heard a clicking sound from around a corner. She slowly turned her light towards the clicking and saw the dark figure in front of her. For the first time, it was so clear and understandable, yet so frightening. Her hands were cut off, her skin was flayed, her hair was gray, her lips were stitched up, and there was a name on her forehead that looked like it had been written with a knife. It was Mia. Lisa couldn't even speak for fear. Her legs were cold, and she collapsed on the floor crying with fear. She came to her senses, and the light of her phone still showed the girl in the darkness, but the girl was doing nothing but watching Lisa, as if calling her to come to her. Lisa slowly approached her and realized that the dark figure was looking at something on the floor. It was a chest, covered with dust and in a very old condition. Opening it slowly, Lisa found family pictures inside. They were of Lisa and her parents, but there was a problem. In every childhood photo, there was a fourth person, a girl who looked a lot like her but whom she could never remember. After taking all the photos out and throwing them away, she found a note at the bottom of the trunk. It was written in her father's handwriting. Lisa read it to the end and started to cry in fear and confusion. When Lisa and her twin sister Mia were born, their mother was on the verge of death. Their father did not want to lose their mother, so he made a deal with the devil and sacrificed one of his daughters. He tore her body apart and flayed her skin. As Lisa read this, she couldn't stand it and threw up on the floor. Then she looked into the darkness and began to examine it. Was this dark girl really her sister? Soon the darkness moved towards the backyard. Lisa remembered her dreams. She was always running towards the backyard, and the darkness was chasing her there. For some reason, a sadness came over her, but she couldn't remember anything, as if her mind was fuzzy. After the darkness had gone a little further, the soil where she was standing had a different color, and she kept looking at it. Realizing the situation, Lisa quickly went to the storage shed in the garden, took a shovel, and started digging in the dirt. He was covered in dirt, and he was also too tired to lift his arms. After digging for a while, the tip of the shovel finally hit something hard. It was a smaller than average coffin. When he cleaned around the coffin and finally opened it, the smell burned his lungs. It smelled so bad that when he covered his hand with his nose and examined it, he saw a body wrapped in a black cloth. He didn't even want to open the cloth. Inside the coffin were notes written in a black notebook. The note said that her father had sacrificed his own daughter to save his wife, but she was no longer the same and had become a messenger of the devil. As she read the notes crying, she came to the end of the note and said that she had to burn her daughter's body to get rid of it, but she wouldn't do it herself because her own husband, the messenger of the devil, wouldn't allow it. Lisa hurriedly took the body, wrapped in black cloth, deep into the forest. She made a small area and started a fire. She didn't know what was going to happen, but all she knew was that she had to burn the body. Slowly she put the body into the fire. Strangely, the fire turned black and the body began to burn immediately. While this was happening, he heard a scream from his own house. It was his mother, the messenger of the devil. When he ran towards the house, he saw that the house was on fire. His father had luckily managed to escape, and his mother had died screaming, and their whole house was in flames, because when he burned the body wrapped in cloth, his mother suddenly caught fire and burned the whole house with her. When the authorities came to the house, her father told them that there had been a fire and that his wife had died. When his father came to talk to Lisa, she told him everything she had done. Lisa could not hold back her tears as she listened to her brother's death and what had happened to her mother. Her father said he had nothing more to do and that he would investigate to make amends for what he had done and left. After a while, Lisa went back to the forest and went to the place where he had burned the body. Everything was in ashes, but there was someone behind her. It was the darkness she had always seen, or rather it wasn't dark anymore. As she approached, there was her sister Mia, dressed in white, her body more shapely and beautiful now. As Lisa waited in silence, Mia approached her and handed her the matching hairband her father had given them when they were little. Lisa silently took it and looked at Mia with sad eyes. Mia's body was slowly disappearing with the ashes blowing in the wind, and these words came out of her mouth. "Thank you, my sister,